Hello, welcome to the Cat and Sam show. One of these days I'll get it right. Good to see you, Sam, and see that giggle going on.
Oh, it's good to see you too, darling, as well. I've missed you all. I've missed our chats. I know some of you might know I've been a little under the weather, but you've had some fantastic guests on, I know, and we've got more to come. But I'm back.
She's back in the saddle again. And what are we going to talk about, Miss Beckenfell?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we could talk about feeling strong,
Is that like strong smelling?
Strong smelling. What, like Brussels sprouts or something? No, I didn't. Okay. No. I don't know. I mean, I think there's that thing, isn't there, when the obviously we talk about abuse and everything on this show, but the impact it can have on you in terms of sort of being able to bounce back health-wise and things like that, and it's not just mentally but physically as well, and the impact that abuse can have just on your nervous system, your immune system, all of those kinds of things. And I'm so used to physically, all my life I've been really physically strong. I know we've both done martial arts, haven't we?
We have.
Yes, which I loved. I absolutely loved it.
Too.
Yeah.
I love breaking those boards.
What was that, my darling?
I said I love breaking those boards.
Yes, I did.
The great boards.
So what was it you did?
It's my voice back again. Huh?
What was it you did?
I did Taekwondo.
I did Shotokan karate. And I loved it. I loved how it made you feel. I loved the discipline of it. And one of the things that I think which you don't realise, I don't know if you came across this, but I didn't realise, because it's self-defence, that was sort of like the main reason girls living in London, and we, still 20, 30 years later, there's still the same issues in the same places. But one of the things that happened that I wasn't expecting was just a change in your whole stance. So say if you were walking into a pub or a bar or something, I think without even realizing it, just because there was a confidence in our physicality and maybe a slight change of it. I mean, I wasn't going in there aggressively or anything, but I think because I was no longer intimidated by walking into a bar on my own. What was interesting was me and my girlfriend who did it with me found that we were the tables turned, and there was an element of intimidation towards the men. They wouldn't come near us. It was really funny. It was like, I don't know, just gave us a different kind of awareness and physical strength, that we didn't have to be worried or so worried about unwanted male attention. Not all male attention is unwanted. Some of it is very nice, thank you very much. So did you find anything like that?
I had a good experience. I had a good Taekwondo teacher who was the most arrogant man you'd ever meet in your life.
So was mine.
But his art was beautiful. His work ethic was beautiful. I had a Haidangam-do, which is Korean sword instructor, who he was not that way. He was very genuine. He was very inviting, and his art was of the same caliber. And so I had two interesting contrasts in schools. One school was very intimidating. I grew up with brothers, so I wasn't too intimidated by men as a general rule, except for an authority kind of, because my some men of authority were intimidating, and I also found it, just growing up with it, that there was some element of fear that was kind of ingrained in me a little bit from kind of an interesting way to look at it. Like, I had an incident where one of my brother's friends hit me, and my brother was there, and I kind of blacked out and wailed on him for a little bit. My brother was holding me up by the back of my shirt, and I was still swinging. And my brother told the guy to shut up, or I did. My brother told him to shut up, or he'd put me down. He'd let me go.
Yeah.
And I'd go back on that guy again. And so martial arts taught me control and discipline and where to hit.
And that's
which was good. It was a great place for me to learn about men in a safe environment. That's what let me take. And I love the art.
So did I. And again, it was that thing of, I grew up with brothers. I grew up on a farm. I've always been physically strong and able. So it wasn't sort of intimidated from it. But, when you're in a major city and, you're walking home at night, late at night, things like that. It's just that extra thing, but also to keep fit. And I always loved doing different things in that respect. But when you were talking about intimidation, do you mean people like doctors and police and, male, like church leaders and sort of male roles like that?
Exactly. I mean, I think that, and I've talked about being raised by in an abusive home. So male intimidation was there. And it's just interesting because I had brothers who were like, you go out there and fight and don't give up. And then at home, it was a different story. So, and then you get in these relationships. I find it interesting. I have a question for you. So did you drive a tractor on the farm?
No. So I didn't. My brothers do. But no, I wasn't allowed on the tractors. But what I would do, and it was when we used to hay bale with twine. So my stepdad would be on the tractor, big male, and we would have to go behind and pick up. This is why you grow up good and strong. And throw the hay bales, which were, a decent size, with by the twine, double twine onto the, you'd have to throw it on. I mean, that's quite, it's quite an exercise when you're doing that a fair bit. And it also toughens up the old palms of the hands as well. But there were lots of jobs to be doing on the farm, but not driving the tractor. But not quite.
I think the intimidation in these relationships that we get ourselves into are different than growing up with brothers. Also, I think there is some subtleties that's done in society,
but I think it's
as
also,
well.
When somebody's intent on, when we're talking about abusers, you know, whether that's rapists, whether that's domestic abusers in the home, which can be both, of course. But I mean, like, you know, in terms of, you know, or just unwanted, you know, inappropriate or unwanted attention from males. There's a brilliant actress, Emily Attack, she's a British actress, and she's gorgeous, and she's blonde and big boobs and things like that. And she's just doing a thing at the moment because of the online unwanted online abuse, the stuff that she gets sent, you know, and that's intimidation, isn't it, as well? You know, all the pics and body parts and stuff, but it's horrific. And people saying, oh, she brought up a really good point, actually. I saw her talking this morning, and she was saying that people say, no, just block and delete, block and delete. So, but the thing is, the image is still there in your head. To block and delete, you can see what they've sent you, and actually they shouldn't be doing it in the first place. You know, it's offensive material. What is going on? You know, that shouldn't be, that should be able to be stopped at source. You know, we can do it. We can do it everywhere else. Sorry, I went a bit off piste there. Just Emily, I thought was fabulous.
No, it's okay. It's just, I think that it's interesting in that I'm at a loss for words, because I'm thinking about if somebody comes onto me unwanted, and I'm not interested, I'm just going to, it's their choice to make that kind of brash comment, and it speaks about who they are as a person. I don't have to take it in. I don't have to take it on. And I don't have to respond to it in a way. So I'm kind of thinking that way, except for, you know, I get your point of what's the reason it's even there. And the reason it's even there is because it's always been there. It's kind of like that sexual harassment in the workplace. The guys would make a joke, you know, they'd say things that were off cuff, and women just kind of ignored it and acted like it wasn't there, right? So, but now they got called to the mat and asked not to do that, right? So the behavior changed. So what do you think would be the answer for this kind of abuse that she's getting? Because it kind of also reminds me of the casting couch.
Yeah, but these are complete strangers.
Which kind of got,
you know, because she's got, this is on social media. You know, these are complete strangers on social media who just think it's okay to do this, you know. It's interesting because Joanna Lumley made a comment. I don't know if it's completely in context, so forgive me if it's out of context, but roughly along the lines of, you know, women used to be stronger, or that, you know, we used to be able to just, you know, just tell people to shut up and put up and stuff. And I think there's an element. I think
we should have to put up.
You know, but I don't know. It's like, it's just like, oh my God, it's so tiring. It's tiring and tiresome. You know, it's like, when is this going to stop?
Well, you know, in male society right now, I mean, comparative to what it used to be, they're getting inundated with the rock hard abs, the unattainable bodies, the touches from unwanted females, because that's happened.
Yeah.
In life to some people I know, and so I think it can be the other way, which is good. I mean, it brings light to the situation. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't know how we're going to get around it when it's that, and it is unwanted, and those things can lead up to other things, where somebody gets hurt because somebody goes too far. They start talking to you like that on social media, and stalking kind of things.
Yeah, we come back to that thing, don't we, where it's just us as a society going, you know what, we've swung too much one way. I'm all for, anybody being able to sort of say, I fancy you. Do you know what I mean? That's fair enough. But it's like we've swung the other way, and it's about finding an equilibrium, And I agree with you, like women almost becoming. I mean, we had it, didn't we? We had it in the 90s with the ladettes over here, where they were, swigging out of whiskey bottles and partying and doing all of that. So I think both, the more we all pull together and go, do you know what? There's fun, and there's naughtiness, and there's a bit of sauce, and there's all of those kinds of things. But it's, we all know, we know, or if we don't know, we should know where the lines are. But we've got kids,
Some people don't know where the lines are.
Because we've got, like, in schools, we've got schools over here who are logging 11-year-olds who mention and hero worship people like Andrew Tate, but they're not getting people to come in and speak to the pupils, both male and female, because it's not just boys, it's girls as well. But they're doing that in year 11 when they're older. We need to be going to the source, and I think we've let our children down with the last. Well, we have, but I think the thing is nobody knows what the answer per se is in terms of like one set thing for us to do, except a pretty basic thing, which is don't do something you wouldn't send to your mother, sister, brother, dad. In that sense, do you know what I mean? Don't, that we know where the line is. I mean, there is a part of me that it's like with abusers, they don't know what they do. Sometimes I think, yes, they do, actually.
Well, yeah, and
they do.
I would agree with that. They know that
they're not stupid.
They know that doing point A or being at point A and doing something gets them to point B.
Yeah.
Whoever they are, they know that. They it's like if I'm standing in front of somebody, you can be very intimidating, with your eyes, with your stature, with the way that you look, with the words that you say. You put a uniform on that and, it's magnified 10 times, right?
Yeah.
100 times, because that's your first step in. Then you got judges here in the States. You got people with a lot of money that can do things that other people can't. And so intimidation comes in a lot of different flavors.
Yeah.
And abusers tend to find the places that they see your vulnerabilities and they go in.
But also, it's not everybody is vulnerable to that. Everybody's vulnerable to if you're a half decent law-abiding citizen, for instance, everybody is vulnerable to a solicitor's letter dropping through on the doormat for something that you haven't done, and you've now got to prove you haven't done because the law has a presumption of truth because they're the one that's put in the claim. You know, that there's I don't think there's necessarily an additional vulnerability always in victims of domestic abuse. I think it's just normal human. You know, if there's somebody in a uniform, we're brought up that way, but a uniform, the whole point of a uniform is it gives off an air, it gives off a you know, an air of control, of being solid, of being of strength. You know, that's and the way that they're designed. You know, I mean, that's what air hostesses, pilots, they all wear uniforms. It's for all rail guards. It's for the same reason. This is the person who is in a certain situation, is the one in charge. They're the one you go to when you're in trouble, especially like the police. You know, if you need to go to the police, or you go to a train guard if there's something happening on the train, or and
yeah, but if that's taught in society.
Yeah,
I mean, that's taught since we were young. So, and we're taught to trust those people. You know, teachers, the neighbor. I mean, you could go on and on.
But when those
about who we're taught to trust,
absolutely. But when those people in uniform, because this is one of the things that's going on now in this country, is about vetting before people are allowed to become a police officer. If the people that are allowed to put on those uniforms, and they can be, you know, somebody who has a you know, control complex, you know, whether it's over their train whistle or over their baton or their who they do and don't believe as a victim. You take somebody who is already damaged themselves and gets off on and intimidating people. The minute they put on that uniform, they're 10 times more They've got a cloak of intimidation added to that lets them express what they naturally want to do anyway. So it's a double whammy. Yeah, I had it with a doctor, recently, a male doctor. I saw a female doctor, and she listened to my chest. She did all of those kinds of things. She prescribed me, and she recommended an X-ray just to double check, you know, just belts and whistles.
Right.
She was an out of hours doctor, spoke to my actual practice doctor, and he's like, I'll decide whether you need an X-ray or not. When I've listened to your chest, it's like, wait a minute. She's just as qualified as you. You know? So
right,
you know, so there's and now I've got to go and see this man and let him listen to my chest, you know, and that is a little intimidating. So speaking of which, apologies. I'm still suffering a little bit, but so it does. You're right. You know, it does come at us. And it doesn't matter whether we're male or female, actually. It comes at us from every angle. And this,
well, there is a difference in the way women can communicate and men communicate. Very slight. You know, you can see that there is some competition there. He doesn't necessarily like that she's overridden him.
He'd never seen me. He's never seen me. He's never listened. It's just for him to. He was the one that's doing the follow up. He obviously doesn't like being the follow up. You know.
I don't know. You know, it's so funny. I mean, I was just recalling. I had a doctor. I was sitting waiting, and I was the first person up for the visit after lunch, so it was like a 1:00 appointment, and I had quite a few questions to ask, and he was late, and he wasn't just like 10 to 15 minutes late. He was like 45 minutes to an hour late. And when he came in, he said, "I'm sorry for being late. I just got caught up, and I'm backed up." And I said, "Yeah, I understand." And so I asked him one of my questions, and he answered it. And I asked him another question, and he said, "I don't have time for this." And I said, "I didn't have time to wait 45 minutes for you to get here either." And he stopped and, did what he needed to do. And it was just being very direct. Some people would have just folded with him telling them, "I don't have time for this," right? And so, I think communication is hard. At the same time, I think it's important because I think it's also what drives us from these relationships to talk about self and to be more self-directed and to be more self-defined and understanding. Okay, well, society has taught me all these things to be intimidated by all these people in all these different situations, and coming into them and going, "You know what? Not today. I'm going to ask my questions and I'm going to get some answers." And it's, talking for self is just very short. It's not these long circles that we learn as kids and as adults to try to get around situations so that it's not a big issue. And I think any of those situations that we're in where we're intimidated, we have to look at, what is, in my opinion, we have to look at like, what is driving that? Like, is this his bravado? And, let me go back to my Taekwondo teacher. He was the most arrogant man I've ever met. He actually, to make you laugh, he actually told somebody that they were in his dojo, and he actually told them, "You're breathing my air. This is my air in the dojo."
Oh,
Like
he
owned
sounds lovely.
No, he was lovely. And right. And so that's absolutely ridiculous. And one of our partners actually coughed. It was hilarious. It was a male who coughed about that statement. But, so I think there's some of, that like knowing who you are, but also knowing where you can press, because there is some intimidation out there that you cannot press up against.
Yeah.
And police cannot be one of them.
No.
And I think I think there's answers in there of like, I can't deal with this person, but I'm going to go to this person and talk to this person because this person is not like that.
Yeah.
Should be an option. And I think, somebody who's educated in domestic violence would be much better for a victim to go to and talk with, that could be able to decipher, what that is about. And so, it's talking about like that standard, even going back to who you were talking about, getting these awful social media stuff, having her give those to a male for a male to handle for her, or for her to learn the steps that she needs to learn in order to take care of that in a way that lets that person know this isn't going to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, no, but she does.
That's how
that.
we change society, right?
Yeah, but that's.
I mean, she blocks and deletes, but you were saying that I thought that you said that she felt, she saw them, and so they already made their mark, right?
Yeah, because physically, to delete something off your social media, you can see it. She has to go in there to delete it to like you can't just You know, she has a social,
delete everything.
Yeah, she's an actress. She has a social media presence, and she has to have one for her job. You know, so you can't go in and delete them without seeing the image. You know, just there. So it's impossible. It's impossible for her to do it. Look at the pair of us snorting like a pair of whatever.
Well, you know, I'm laughing because I've had some in the page and I just delete, ban, block, whatever.
Yeah.
Off, record.
Yeah. But she's doing it 24/7. That's the other thing. It's not like she's getting these occasionally. This is constant for her. You know.
Yeah. No. And that's kind of what I was getting at with what I was trying to say is at some point you have to draw a line and it becomes harassment.
Well, this is it. And again, so we come back to those people who we look to in society, and you know, I know in the States that
I see what you're saying.
There's even more of an issue again with the police in the US, the same as there are here, the same as they are in Australia and other places where on the one hand, we have to be, you're right, you know, we have to be able to go to them, we have to be able to look to them, we have to be able to say also that if there's a problem with who you're talking to have an option to talk to somebody else, you know. But it's I've lost my thread now. It's completely gone.
Listen,
that's it, it's gone.
Well, you were talking, yeah, but you were talking about the fact that she should have an avenue. And yeah, I agree with you. She should have an avenue if she continues to get harassed and she's having to deal with this on a consistent basis.
But we haven't. I mean, this is why they're bringing online abuse laws. But also, the fact of the matter is, we live in a country where rape and domestic abuse are literally decriminalised. 1.3% of rape cases and something like 96% of D8 cases fail. So it's like 3% for make it charge, 3% for one, and 1.3 for another. If they can't be bothered with when there's the actual physical rape, then they're certainly not going to bother with harassment. And then, you know, if you've actually got a big cohort within the police who are abusers themselves, we're on a hide into nothing, you know.
Right, and I think it comes back to society. That we as a society have to make the changes. I mean, we can make all the laws, but also it's so manipulative.
We have to be pretty forceful about leadership. You know, the leadership of these institutions, whether it's the church, whether it's the police, whether it's, you know, our healthcare systems. If there are people in there that, you know, it has to come from leadership that this is zero tolerance. There's zero tolerance to this in these.
Yeah, but you go sit in a court. Yeah, but you go sit in a court and they don't know. They don't know what it is.
No.
So how, you know? Okay, so I read something and now I've got to interpret it to see, you know, if it's correct or whatever. And maybe, you know, maybe somebody won't see it. It won't be a big deal, especially if they don't have money.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's there's so much there. That's why, you know, I always come back to society. Society has to look at this and go, okay, yeah, we need laws. I mean, I give England a lot of credit, the UK a lot of credit for wanting to come up with laws. They come up with laws and now they don't know how to prosecute them. Don't know how to prosecute them because there's a big freaking problem. You know, it's like
it's exhausting sometimes. You know, and
it's right. It's like the saying, right? Boys will be boys, men will be men,
girls will be girls.
You know, women will be women. Okay, so you know, when girls will be girls. When are we gonna just stop?
Yeah, it does just feel like that sometimes.
Good human beings.
Precisely. That's simple.
Right,
really,
I mean,
simple. You know,
if you don't want to be groped in an elevator, then don't, or it bothers you that your daughter's been assaulted, but you're out, sending emails.
Yeah.
Just
I know
at
what
the
you're
same
trying to say,
time,
yeah.
if we don't talk about it, how does it change?
Precisely.
And you talk about leadership, but if leadership, it's not even on their radar.
No, because they're above it. They're above it. It's not, they think it doesn't impact them, or, there are some thoughts about,
And
the higher up the food chain the more likely you are to indulge in these kinds of behaviors and ways of thinking, and patriarchy and misogyny and things like that, and it's just like, yeah, some days you just get that feeling, don't you? You just want to look, just stop, and just all of us just be half decent to each other, and you know what, the world would be a really nice place. Naive as that sounds,
well, I do think that people are naive about themselves. I know I was in some of what drove me. Sorry, this is going to be a outtake. So I know that I was naive in the things that drove me, and I think we have to do. I talk about self-care, and I talk about and I feel like that we have to. That's where it has to come from, and I think, you and I talking and you and I stressing that this isn't okay is also giving other people an understanding that they have the same rights. You don't have to put up with somebody continuing to assault them in various ways, abuse them in various ways. I feel extremely sorry for kids and the way that they're looked at in our society, as far as, just thinking about them having to go with the other parent when someone left that relationship because it was abusive. And the intimidation of a judge telling you don't have a choice, that's what it's going to happen.
I think Australia is just turning that law on its head, thankfully. But don't quote me on that. But I think that's that's just happening now. But yeah,
and then society wonders why people don't want to leave.
Yeah. Or
it's a mess.
Yeah, it is a mess.
And it, and I agree with your call to leadership, because I think that's important. Here in the States, leadership would be even, our Congress and our senators, even at a state level. We have ways of getting laws through, and in the states, each separate state. But it just takes someone to push for those things to go through. At the same time, I always go back to society, because if we don't change society, it's not going to work. And I think that's what you're seeing in the UK, because it's so slight. And if somebody doesn't understand it, because you and I talk about it being a pattern, right? Mm-hmm. But if it's so slight that somebody may have the book smarts about it, but they don't have the experience by living it. Well, because they really can't talk about it.
But this is where society's voice, because that's the thing, we say, oh, society needs to do this, society needs to do that. Actually, the thing is actually to give society its voice as well. Society has a voice, and actually we are allowed to use it. They might be trying to shut us down. They might be bringing laws in this country that make things like demonstrating. We've always demonstrated in this country about all sorts and everything, you know. It's part of our democratic process. It's gone back, you know, the Tolpuddle martyrs. It's gone forever, Magna Carta, and to remove that, you know, and we so it's broader than just victims of DA, but at the same time, it's in the same vein of having our voices shut down. You know, we are allowed to use it, very much so, and there is a power in that, and there's a real, you know, that's when things change, is when we all come together, properly come together in sort of honest, open discourse in ways that's respectful of every, you know, each way, so different groups get their voices heard.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but ultimately, it's about us just fundamentally being human beings, whatever we are. Doesn't matter what we're. First and foremost, every one of us is a human being, and sometimes I think we forget that.
Right. I absolutely agree with you, and I think, you know, in talking with, you know, I have male friends and counterparts and children and just a lot of different people in community. And I think that, you know, I talk a lot about communication and how hard it is. At the same time, you know, it's like, even like, you know, at the beginning of this thing, you were talking about this woman who keeps getting these things. And I went a different route with how I believed she could just blow it off. But at the same time, I'm not her, and I don't have to deal with that on a day-to-day basis all the time. And so I need to listen to her. You know, I need to listen to that and stand behind her and give voice to that as well. You know, and that's how communication works. It's just, you come to understandings with each other, but you have to listen, and not listen to try to make them believe that what you have to say is brilliant. You know, it's just giving them space to be heard for who they are and what they want to portray.
I mean,
I think that's having compassion for your fellow person.
And also, she's doing it as somebody with a platform to, you know, to help others, that she knows that this happens. And also, the other thing is, I've only given a piece of her story out of context, and, you know, in that one particular thing that was pertinent to what we were talking to at the time. So, but it's about being curious. It's about being open to learning something that you know you didn't already know, but certainly in terms of being human beings, you know, we have this thing. It's almost like, you know, like kids, they aren't human beings until they're separate from us as parents, until they become adults. Of course they are, you know, and just yeah. I mean, human beings.
I mean, think about the. Right. I mean, I don't know where I was going to go. Now I lost my train of thought, like you.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, if you think of, if everybody is thought of as a human being, first and foremost, and that's it, then a lot of the other stuff that gets really complicated falls away. It just falls away. So you just don't treat another human being in a way that you would not want to be treated. It's a fairly straightforward, like I say, it's naive, it's simplistic, it's all of those things. But I think it's quite a good starting point.
I agree. I mean, I you know, I'm in a store and some little kids crying, and I'm wondering why they're crying. They're crying because they can't get a toy, and I think, well, I cry sometimes because I can't get the toy that I want. And it's okay to cry. Why do you tell them to be quiet? Just because it bothers somebody else. Well, it's just part of being in a community.
And
if they're screaming.
Yeah, I mean, it's teaching them.
Maybe take them outside, but
yeah, and teach them and explain to them that's we all have things we want and can't have, and actually, then what they're taught is how to manage that feeling. The feeling isn't the issue; it's how they're managing it and how they're expressing it. But they should be able to, still have these conversations with my youngsters where it's like, but I'm mad. It's like, yeah, I get mad too, but you learn how to sort of not go OTT over everything, but that's teenagers for you.
But I mean
it's hormones raging.
Right. But think about the intimidation that's there. Society's intimidating that mother not to allow that child to cry. The mother's intimidating the kid not to cry because she doesn't want to be embarrassed, or she is trying to control the situation so that they're not screaming or whatever. Or, her parents have told her how to parent, and so she's doing the best she can with whatever tools that she's got at her things. And we've learned so much more about parenting than we did when my kids were young, and also, when I was young, and so forth, and all that kind of stuff. And if we don't talk about it, it doesn't progress and it doesn't change. It just keeps being the same. And I think, that's what we have. We have now a code of blue. California just passed a law about not having any more flags for the police, because the police had a flag with a blue line that they would fly. And they felt like that was a division, which is interesting, because these things are about belonging. Who do I belong with? And that's what drives, people to continue acting this way. And they don't want to be seen as a weaker person.
No.
Because they may believe in humanity. But, we're not going to cure the tree if we don't go to the roots.
Yeah.
And we want to go to roots.
We do.
And that's why we talk, about things that other people don't want to talk about, at the same time. They need to be brought up. So we hope you guys, further the communications as we go, like Sam and I will and do. And
and I mean, if
domestic violence.
Sorry, you carry on.
No, go ahead, sweetie.
No, I was just going to say, if people, if they like what we're talking about, or they want to pass it on, you share and like and subscribe and do all of those things, then that's great, because that helps our channel. It passes it to more and more people who, then leave more comments, which means that we have more to talk about that people want to hear as well. And we get information, other people get information, so it's a win-win. So yeah, if people can like, share and subscribe, that does us, and ding that bell thing, it does. It means that the communication tool can keep going, But you were saying about DA, darling.
Well, that's what we talk about, a lot here. That's what our drive is. At the same time, we want to be able to offer people classes and education in our communities. And if we don't talk about it, it's just going to be the status quo. Not that we have all the answers, but as a community and as we progress, our children deserve better. And so do the women, and so do the men. And that's why we talk, and that's why we're here. That's our why.
That's our why.
So.
And we should be doing
a hell of a why.
It is. It is. It is. And we shall be doing it again. And again and again.
We'll be doing it again. And hopefully we put a little dink in that.
Let's hope.
But I don't know what.
Just
that problem.
We'll just keep working.
Even if we get somebody that goes, right, even if we get somebody who goes, oh, I never thought about it that way. Or you and I go, I never thought about it that way. Because I do that a lot with our discussions. And we'll be back here soon.
We will.
Take care.
See you soon.
Love you, Sam.
And you.
Good to have you back.
Nice to be back.
Hello. Thank you for watching our channel today. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell for any new content and find us on Patreon and your favorite podcasts. We hope we're one of them. Bye-bye.